I'm here with Nayo ahead of the launch of her brand new, entirely self-produced EP, Four Quarters. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the EP?
Yeah, so Four Quarters was, it's been about 2 years in the making, and it was very much just trying to let go of the perfectionism, and just learning a new skill is always difficult. You know, I've never produced before. When I was choosing which tracks I wanted to put in the actual project, when I came to choosing them, I basically just chose the ones that made me feel settled and held and connected to myself, because it's been, you know, the world is in a really tough place at the moment, and I feel like every time I open my phone or look at, you know, papers or the news, everything is so dark. And actually it's been that way for a while. You know, I feel like it's just kind of been consistently quite tough for a few years now. So with this project, I wanted it to be something that was truthful and that was authentic, but that would make me feel positive and empowered and, yeah, just a bit more connected to the self. So each of the tracks of the EP is called Four Quarters, and that's a bit of a reference to that mystical, spiritual side of me. You know, when you walk into a room, it's kind of, maybe it's a witchy thing, maybe it's a spiritual thing, I don't know, but you spray water into four corners and that's like your protective space. And so I really want to think about that and about balance and about how much we need balance as human beings. Yeah, to be able to be in the world and have things come at us and be able to be resilient. And each of the 4 tracks relates to a different element.
I won't keep these secrets, I don't have to hold them. I won't feed on these greedy lies. I won't keep these secrets, I don't have to hold them. I won't. I won't keep these secrets, I don't have to hold them. Won't keep these secrets, I don't have to hold them. I won't keep these secrets, I don't.
Each of the tracks of the EP, they all have this kind of breakdown just before the end chorus, and that's kind of just allow a bit of a moment of space within the track to really take it in and to shake all your troubles away and to, you know, get into a zone. And so what I'm doing is that with this, I've got the stem of the breakdown and then I'm starting to remix it live. I think what was tricky at the beginning was figuring out what things I actually want to do live, because there's so many things you could do live, like, and obviously I'm already singing live, so it's like there's only so many things you can kind of focus on, and I'm used to keeping my rhythm and and DJing instead of like pressing play and be doing effects and singing, because I've been doing that. And I'm used to playing the piano and singing because that's how I write my songs at home. But bringing the two together in one thing, I was like, is this plausible? So, it's just been a lot of practice, but then also going, let's structure it in a way that is easy for your brain to transition your skills. But then you can start to build out of it and it can evolve. And I think that's what's really exciting, is that when you've got a setup like this, you can just constantly be evolving. And constantly building and constantly doing different things. So so this is my Ableton Push. So this is actually where I kind of started writing all of the songs in terms of producing. And there's so many different things you can do. So this, what we're in at the moment, this is the session view. These are all different kind of audio clips that have been pre-prepared. So I've got a kick, a jamming loop, an instrument of some kind of melody, percussion. Then I've got my main vocal here. I've got a vocal looper here. I've got groove here, which is like an extra little bit of something to kind of give it some sparkle. But there's so much that you can do with it. So this is it when I'm just kind of hitting the clips to trigger them like throughout a song. So this has got about 6 different types of loops in it. And I'm working through the row when I'm going through the song. Let me just, so for instance, this is just the beginning of the breakdown of one of the tracks. And then I can add these different things to it. So these are things that I've kind of pre-prepared. So I've got the kick. Just kind of add that vibe. And then I've got the percussion. And then I've got this melody. it's really important to kind of have something that's just like, just shake it off. Like, we come into this world with things that we don't know about, generational trauma, and, you know, all the sticky things and emotions that we can never truly know. And that's okay, and that's human, but just know what's yours and what isn't yours, and what's not yours, put it down. That's not your baggage to be dragging into the world with you. And then Goddess is based in earth, and that is that sense of connecting with our spirituality and our ancestors and the moment beyond just here and now. You know, there's so much that's come before us, there's so much that will come after us, and it was about that need to kind of connect with the inner self and nature and just get that sense of stillness. And it was funny, like I read a quote about it, talking about it as a ballad, and I was like, oh my god, I never think of Goddess as a ballad, but it is. It's kind of like a love song to your inner self, you know. And then Hold You Down is air, and that's like, because we all need a cheerleader. We all need someone who's gonna fill us up with all the good stuff, with all the positive vibes, and that can be us. You know, I think we're living in a space where, again, people feel like if you're not coupled, if you're not with someone, then you're not valid, and that is completely untrue. You know, and Hold You Down is about saying you can hold you down. You don't need anyone else. Like, you can be your own strength. Speak to yourself the way that you would speak to your best friend. Love yourself the way that you would love a partner, and care for yourself the way that you'd expect family to care for you.
I love that. Such an amazing, powerful message throughout the whole of the EP. And it must be quite different for you to invest so much of your kind of personal feelings into a project. It's not like, you know, when you've DJ'd before. I suppose how's that process been for you? Has it been strange feeling vulnerable?
I think my music is always the place where I'm most vulnerable. Like, and that's what was nice about DJing, because I could have a bit of a barrier, you know. But whenever I've been making music before, whether I've been working with producers or whether I've been working with my band, it's been really heart on a sleeve music. And the single from my last project, called Blackbird, was all about, you know, being a black woman and a mixed race woman, and feeling like I was trying to have conversations with people they just weren't listening to, and it felt like I was screaming for recognition within my music. And when I came out of the pandemic and we came out of, you know, the back of BLM, I had to make some very serious decisions about who I was going to have in my life, and it got really difficult to play that song, and it got really hard to go out and play that just every time. And I think I was like, actually, I'm always going to be personal with my music. It's always going to be something that is honest, because I feel like I connect the most with the songs which are authentic, and that come from a place of truth. But what I wanted to make sure with this project was that it was coming from a place of truth and not pain. You know, I wanted to make sure that it was saying something, but actually I play it and I feel better. Yeah. You know, I don't play it and feel depleted. And I want people to come to the show and to see me play and know that they're going to leave feeling good. Because it also got a little bit weird, like people kind of came to feel guilt, you know, and I was like, that's not what I want my music to do. I want it to rejuvenate people. You know. So part of my practice over the last, God knows how long, 8 years, has been, when I'm working with young people, when I'm working with adults, even if I'm just on my own, is putting empowerment cards. And like they give you a little something extra to think about, you know, and like can just lift you up. And sometimes I just pull a card, and you know, all these things can bring up different questions, and I think that's the beauty of them. So for this project, I wanted to make empowerment cards for the project. And so when people come to the show, everyone's going to get one of these when they come in.
Oh, amazing.
And then there's one for each of the different tracks.
That's so cool.
So this is 16 in a set, and then on the back they each have a quote from one of the songs.
Oh, that's so sweet. It says, "You're perfect. You learned not to see it, but I hope you can handle it now, and you always hold it down." What a good message. Love it.
So yeah, so there's, each of these has something different on them, and then I also left this space so that people can write their own empowering quote. And I want at the show for there to be everyone to take one and write one, and then give it to a stranger.
What a lovely sentiment. The bringing together of people at your shows, I think that's lovely. And such a, as you're saying, an evolution of your music.
Exactly. And it's amazing to be able to share the music with people. But I also wanted to have something that people could take away with them and they could be reminded of how wonderful they are, because that's what I want my music to make people feel, that we all have so much power within us. We all have so much beauty and light in us. And I think especially in this online world, people are so used to just scrolling and not connecting, and we're losing our connection with each other and we're losing our connection with ourselves. And that's what I wanted this show to be.
So that kind of leads me on then to ask you about your work within social change and being such an advocate for social change. You've recently been designing a training program, Volume Up.
Yeah.
Is that right? So about gender equality. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Volume Up is something that I've been heading up for Yorkshire Sound Women at Work, and I've been working with them since last year. And Volume Up is all about about opening a doorway for businesses and organisations within the sound and audio industry to make space for people from different backgrounds. And what we were finding was that, so basically, I think with all of this work, there's this real fear around, where do I start? It's so big. And also, do I really need to? Is it really that bad? Is it really that dire? And it is, under the less than 4% of the music tech industry is comprised of women and minority-netted people. Of that statistic, less than 1% are from the global majority or Asian or ethnically diverse. So that's a really big disparity,
right?
I
had no idea of that, though.
It really is. And I mean, and this is about sort of tech specifically.
Okay.
But that was kind of where we saw that there needs to be change, because there's so many different jobs that you can do, right? There's so many, once you understand the tech, you can start, the world is your oyster. There's loads of jobs you can do behind glass roles. You can be a sound engineer, you can be a sound designer, you can be working in film, working in TV. There's so much, but right now it's only being utilised by a very small group of people. So with Volume Up, we came up with an 8-strand framework for organisations to be able to make serious pledges of actions towards each of these strands. Understanding and awareness, workspace culture, working practices, pay, progression and professional development, recruitment, marketing and comms, and then advocacy and support. Okay. So, because all of these spaces, it's like when there's not an actual effort to look at them, nothing gets done. So the whole idea behind this was okay, here's your roadmap. It's a 6-month program. Start it. We start with understanding and awareness. We start with the workspace culture. Actually, let's get things ready in-house. Yeah. Then we can start looking at what the paid gaps are, what the development is. Then we can start looking at recruitment and marketing and how to bring people in, because there's no point bringing people in when the work hasn't been done. No. Right, so
be specific, don't you? Just really vague. We're going to do it somehow. Yeah. But, so it's good that,
and also to have somebody who's actually going to be pushing you to do it. So that's kind of what I do there. I'm the cheerleader / critical friend that gets people involved and said, right, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And how can I support you to actually do this over 6 months? And then once organisations have done it, they get a kite mark, which basically says, this organisation has spent the time and the money and the thought to make this a really equitable space. And then after 2 years, we revisit it. Wow. So, and at the moment, I'm working on a campaign for them called Turn Up the Volume. And it's all about that. So we are engaging with other people that we work with, other people within the industry. I'm hosting a podcast with them to talk about all the great work that they're doing. And then we're also putting together a video to go and bring people in and kind of go to these organizations and these businesses and say, come on, get involved. And actually, let's start doing this, because absolutely anybody can make serious change. And even if it's just sending someone an email and saying, hey, I've noticed our office is hella white and hella male. Shall we change? Just starting those conversations, just get the ball rolling, and then we can start working on stuff.
What made you so passionate about that? Has it kind of been your life's work, or is there something that's specific that led you to become involved with that?
I grew up in rural Wales as the only brown person, and it was not fun. And then I came to Bristol and expected to kind of slot in with the black community, and realised that there was a lot that I didn't understand there either. So I feel like I've kind of always grown up on the peripheries of communities and never really felt embedded in any of them. And there's a sadness to that, but then there's also been a real sense of being able to observe the different way that people inhabit space and what the different levels of comfort are, and kind of doing people watching, but also being watched, but also kind of adapting to different spaces. And it's meant that I can fit in most places. I mean, I stand out, obviously, I'm tall with purple hair, but like, I can conduct myself in most spaces. But I also feel like people have really focused on the things that make them different. And so we lose the thing that makes us all the same. So I think when I've been growing up, that's always been really important to me, is actually being able to have empathy and want others to have empathy for the fact that their life experience is not the same as someone else's. You know, my experience as a mixed race woman is not the same experience as a dark-skinned Black woman. It's just not. And I need to be able to recognize that and recognize that I benefit from white supremacy in order to be part of the change. And I think what is really interesting is people who just go, no, I don't think I need to engage with that. And I'm like, but it's because you don't have to. You don't have to. That's where the privilege is. And, you know, you don't have to care about homophobia because you're straight, and you don't have to worry about disability because you're able-bodied. So all of these things, we don't think about them unless we force ourselves to and want to find the gaps. And so I think being really interested in that and always feeling at home in spaces on the periphery has made me go, actually, I feel safe in these spaces, but the people in these spaces, we don't feel safe anywhere else. So what do we do about that? And I've been able to grow up in a lot of different areas, and I've had the privilege of being able to kind of move through classes and have a degree of education, which means that I find it fairly easy to hold my own. But my thing is, no one should feel like they don't belong somewhere because they don't come from the same walk of life as the guy who has walked through all of these private schools, you know? So I think that's kind of what put me on this. And I think when I started DJing, I noticed just how... I didn't even notice how few women there were. There were just no women. I remember the first time I saw a woman DJ, I was baffled because she was just surrounded by topless dancers. Now, I love a topless dancer as much as the next person, but I was like, what's happening? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the messaging? And I was so confused and just kind of like, okay, I don't know what like, I don't know what's happening. It's not inspiring. No. It's not empowering. It's titillizing, but it's not. It's diminishing what otherwise might have been quite a powerful moment for me when I was raving when I was young. And that was the only time I'd ever seen a woman DJ. And then after that, years later, I saw Jams DJing, Jam Supernova, who's a wonderful, wonderful person and a friend. And it made me go, I didn't know that we could do that. Huh. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let me see what I can do. And then that's where I learned how to DJ. Yeah. But then I was always being booked by my friends, and I love them dearly. But I was constantly being surrounded by men all the time. And I was just like, this is so strange because it's really male. And again, it's really white and it's really straight. And this is not, I can manage here, but it's not my comfort zone, you know. And you're working the nighttime industry, people are drunk, people are high, people have less inhibitions than normal. So in terms of walking through a crowd of people, it starts to not be fun. You know, who's going to grab my hair or my ass or say something, and how many times I'm going to get triggered before I even get to the stage, and then I have to start performing. And it was just like, this is actually not that fun. So that's why I started Booty Bass, because I was like, actually, I don't want to go to these spaces on my own. I really don't. I would actually much rather go with a couple of friends, safety in numbers, we can keep each other safe. And, you know, and also when I was DJing, I found that, and the promoters found that as soon as I started DJing, all the women would start to come to the front. Because it was like, oh, it's cool. She can see us. It's going to be fine.
I went to see Booty Bass last Halloween. One of the best nights out I've ever had. It was incredible.
Yay.
I remember saying to my friend Maya Slagamuffin,
Yeah.
like how safe and confident and comfortable it was, and yeah, danced for like 6 hours straight. Yes. Until my hair was like little sweaty.
Little sweaty little bits.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
So that's actually why I wanted to reach out to you. So
Aw.
I was just like, that was fantastic.
Oh,
And
good. I'm so
amazing
glad.
that you've made such an impact, especially in the Bristol music scene. Like anyone knows you.
Oh, I don't know if that's true.
I think you're being modest.
I mean, I guess it's strange though, isn't it? Because you don't really know the impact that you're having. And I think as long as the impact is that people know that it's possible to go out and dance for 6 hours straight and feel safe. Because for me, a long time, that wasn't the case. I didn't know that I was going to be able to do that, you know? And I think what's really been nice about running Booty Bass is that it's also, I think just from entering the space, people have to think about why they're there, you know? And with our messaging beforehand, it's like people have messaged us saying, oh, you know, we've had conversations with our male friends that we've never had before because they just don't think it exists. And because you've put this thing out there saying, don't fucking touch people unless they want to be touched, they're going,
Be pretty
you would
obvious.
think. But their friends are going, oh, do people touch you without you? And it's like, yes, they do. Often. It's nice to know that these conversations are being more openly had now, because if we can be open about it, we can change it. But when everything is just in the dark and it's grey area and everyone's like, oh, you know, sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. Well, that doesn't protect anybody.
No. And the fact that you have been brave enough to call that out, and everything that you're doing through the messages in your music, you know, that's just so powerful. And I believe that, you know, people are going to listen to it and just feel so inspired to just be themselves. And like you said, here, those people that haven't thought about those kind of things, it's so important to have messages in music like you're doing, so people can just start to wake up a bit, I think.
Yeah, but in their own time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, you know, with Blackbird, it was very like, listen! And actually, people said they listened and they couldn't because they weren't there yet. And I think it's also about being able to say, you know, listen to this and let it chime with something that is true and let it put you on a journey meeting you where you are.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to drag anybody into my understandings of myself. But I'm just trying to say, like, listen, let's just have open minds and open hearts and let the music help us to connect with each other and with ourselves.
That's a beautiful message. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me today.
No, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been
you.
fantastic. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to your show. The launch event is the 6th of June at the Bristol Beacon.
Yeah.
Tickets online. Make sure you get them.
And they're only £5 because we're all struggling.
Yes.
So
yeah.
keeping it affordable, keeping it open. But yeah, and also, like, I just want people to come also on their own if they want to, because they'll meet someone nice.
Yeah.
They'll meet a friend.
Especially with you.
Exactly, especially with these, and they will be given. Everyone's going to get one. We're gonna make some connections.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me.